I'm very excited because I've waited a long time to make this video. In this video I will be talking about arguably the best point and click game ever made. Greetings and welcome to Retro Games in Rally English. My name is Juho Kuorikoski, I'm a Finnish journalist and a non-fiction author, and I'm here to talk about old games in my very Finnish English. This video has been in my mind for a very long time because I am going to talk about The Secret of Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge, which is my all-time favorite game, and may I say that it is also the best point-and-click adventure game ever made. Although the game was released in 1992, it is still quite the masterpiece. But right from the get-go, I have to say that if you haven't played the game, please stop this video and play it for yourself before continuing. I'm going to spoil the whole plot, so trust me, you're better off not knowing what happens in the game. Just trust me on this, play the game before you continue further. But for the rest of us, let's hoist that Jolly Roger in the mast and return to Caribbean. The Secret of Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge is a direct sequel to the first adventure of Guybrush Threepwood. In the first game, our hero ventured to the mythical Monkey Island, but the secret was never unveiled. This time Guybrush is hunting Big Whoop, a legendary pirate treasure, and he has also grown his first beard. The game was written by Ron Gilbert, Tim Schafer and Dave Grossman. The trio is on fire, as the jokes are funnier, the plot is crazier and puzzles are just excellent. There's just one instance where the logic is somewhat hazy, but other than that the structure is just brilliant. The story gets going immediately after a short intro sequence, and as was the case with the first game, Guybrush's motives and goals change along the way. The way the game ends is just mind-blowing and an excellent example of out-of-the-box thinking of the writers. But more on that later. As I mentioned in my video regarding the first Monkey Island game, structuring an adventure game is a twofold process, especially in the terms of the narrative. It's always a combination of story and puzzles, and these two need to link together. Constructing an adventure game is no easy feat, especially when you are trying to make a good one. Many game developers have borrowed from Monkey Island games, and for a good reason. These games are actually blueprints of a good adventure game. If you are familiar with other LucasArts adventure games, Monkey Island 2 offers few surprises. The user interface and the inventory are located in the bottom third of the screen. You click hotspots and select proper verbs to interact with them. You advance the story by solving puzzles the game throws at you and talking to other people. Adventure games challenge your wits, and there are no better means to be acquainted with the genre as the first two Monkey Island games. The puzzles are absurd yet logical, and the game keeps winking at you and delivering punchlines. The humor is reminiscent of Monty Python and the single strongest driving force to advance the story. The humor is not limited only to dialogue and situational comedy. The puzzles themselves are often jokes as well, as they bend the everyday logic to score laughs or to make players think outside the box. A good example of the puzzle logic is this brain teaser here. You see a bolt which you need to turn, but in order to do this, you need a monkey wrench. Fortunately, you have a monkey in your inventory, which will work as a wrench if need be. The puzzle is solved and you feel amused. A good ground rule for an adventure game puzzle is that it isn't too self-explanatory, but not too much out there either. You need to think, try out different alternatives, and when the right solution finally hits you, you'll get to appreciate your wits. When this process is repeated multiple times, you have an adventure game in your hands. But this is no easy stunt to pull through. The puzzle design in general is so good in Monkey Island 2 that it is a near perfect example of an adventure game and the core loop that these games revolve around. The other important thing that Gilbert, Schafer and Grossman did with the structure was to make it somewhat open. There's a set of tasks that need to be done in order to progress, but you can almost always choose the order they are executed. The core structure of parallel puzzles is somewhat of a trademark of LucasArts' games. Many other adventure game developers have failed to adapt this to their works. It's actually quite puzzling, no pun intended, especially in the games that pay homage to LucasArts. Yes, humor and jokes are an integral part of Monkey Island and other LucasArts adventure games, but they are only the topping on the well-structured gameplay. If you are an aspiring adventure game developer, structure your game in this manner first and then write the jokes. This library contains the only illogical puzzle of the game. In the second act, Guybrush has to find 4 pieces of a map, and information regarding them is stashed here. This is where the game stalls a bit, as there's no clue on how to progress, rather than the good old trial and error. Okay, let's talk about the ending. This is a final warning because there's some heavy spoilers ahead. The game throws a narrative curveball at you when you have defeated LeChuck, who is in a zombie form this time. It turns out that Guybrush and LeChuck have been at a pirate-themed amusement park named Big Whoop all this time. The whole adventure in Caribbean was just a product of a child's imagination. This plot twist is right on par with the ending of Empire Strikes Back, in which The Secret of Monkey Island 2 is similar in many ways. The movie and the game are best of their franchises, and in a sense, it's downhill from here. Sure, The Curse of Monkey Island is an excellent game, but it pales in comparison, just as The Return of the Jedi. The ending of Monkey Island 2 is one of the best in the whole history of digital games, because no one probably saw this coming. This is a perfect way to subvert expectations. Once the credits roll, the whole experience with the 2 Monkey Island games can be seen in a totally new perspective that also makes sense. Guybrush was playing a game and we all took part in it. The ending is logical in the terms of an adventure game as well, as these kinds of games often remind, myself at least, of the imagination play that many children perform. You take your toys to a sandbox and generate a narrative in your mind. The Secret of Monkey Island 2 is the final piece of evidence of the skills of Ron Gilbert, Tim Schafer and Dave Grossman. The general quality of game scripts has improved during the years, but this trio was able to produce this kind of content in the early 1990s. The history of The Secret of Monkey Island 2 is directly linked to the first game, so in a sense the games are much more linked together than just a game and its sequel. The development of The Secret of Monkey Island 2 started almost immediately after the first game was released. Ron Gilbert took 2 weeks off and then it was time to start designing the sequel. Guybrush had vanquished the ghost pirate LeChuck, and he proudly tells his story to anyone who's willing to listen, and to those who won't. One feat will only get you so far, so Guybrush needs to update his resume. So he sets his sights on the Big Whoop, the most legendary treasure known to Piratosphere. During the development of Monkey Island 2, CD-ROM drives were gaining popularity. Ron Gilbert thought that this was just a fad, so the game was released only on floppy disks. Sierra went full steam ahead with optical media, but LucasArts joined the bandwagon after second Monkey Island. There's no full talkie version available, if you don't count the remastered edition, but that's okay. There's a distinct difference in reading and listening. When the dialogue of the first 2 Monkey Island games was dubbed, it lost some of its appeal. It just sounds wrong. To fit the game into 5 floppy disks, this meant that some of the content had to be cut. Dave Grossman has stated that the only scene he remembers that was removed from the game was a long tunnel that served only the purpose of traveling from one location to other. PC gamers had easy time with the floppies, but that was not the case with the Amiga release. The Amiga port was crammed into 11 floppies, and the game quickly earned a nickname of a floppy swapping simulator. Ron Gilbert seems to be somewhat of a stubborn man. He didn't want the game to be released on CD-ROM, but he also didn't budge when the German localization was in the making. Translators suggested an alteration to the monkey wrench puzzle. If the monkey would have been replaced with an Englishman in the German edition, the puzzle would have made a lot more sense, as the joke is based on linguistics. Englander, Englishman, is a German term used in similar manner as monkey wrench. Ron Gilbert left LucasArts after The Secret of Monkey Island 2 was released. Tim Schafer and Dave Grossman kept the flame burning, and the company released a truckload of memorable adventure games in the future years. Story of Guybrush Threepwood continued too, although the ending of the second game almost made sure that this wouldn't happen. Ron Gilbert has stated that making a sequel after that kind of ending would be near impossible, but he has also complimented the team behind Curse of Monkey Island for their approach. Ron Gilbert is probably the only human in existence who knows the true secret of Monkey Island. He has stated that if he is able to do a sequel for LeChuck's Revenge, he will reveal that secret for the rest of us. Thanks to the recent resurrection of LucasArts IPs, this might actually be possible. I'd really hope that Disney would make it reality. This game is legendary, and for a very good reason. The Secret of Monkey Island 2 is more than just the sum of its parts, a near perfect example of an adventure game, both structure and content. It is also a fitting end to the career of Ron Gilbert in LucasArts. He started the adventure game production with Maniac Mansion, and the last game he was involved is a milestone and an instant classic. I absolutely love the game, and I want to spread my love for it far and wide. The remastered version isn't half bad, but the dubbed dialogue just feels wrong. They made Guybrush's hair blonde, which is almost comparable to the Star Wars Special Editions, Han shot first, period. The game has aged very well, the graphics are beautiful and the MIDI music sounds excellent. The game runs perfectly on ScumVM, but the remastered version comes with the old graphics and sounds. There's only one trip left to the Caribbean. The Curse of Monkey Island is, in my books, the final chapter in the Monkey Island series. Telltale's Tales of Monkey Island is okay, but Escape from Monkey Island is, in my opinion, total garbage. But that's enough monkey business for one day. As always, the race was hard, tire was bad. Until next time, Kuorikoski out.